They say kindness doesn't pay the bills, but one girl's $8 decision proved that sometimes it can change your entire life. It was a little after 6 in the evening when Tiana Brooks's old Toyota sputtered its way down Highway 41 just outside Chattanooga, Tennessee. The sun was low, the kind that painted everything gold, except Tiana didn't have time to notice that. Her gas light had been on for miles, her phone was at 2%, and her stomach hadn't seen a proper meal since yesterday. She was heading home from her clinical shift at the hospital, 12 hours on her feet, helping patients, taking vitals, and trying not to think about the bills stacked up on her kitchen counter. Her mind was already on the instant noodles waiting for her back home. That was dinner. Again. But then she saw him. A man on the shoulder of the road, standing beside a Harley Davidson that looked mean enough to growl on its own. The man was built like a tank. Denim vest, faded jeans, tattoos crawling up both arms. His beard was streaked with gray, his face tired but steady. He held a red gas can in one hand, staring down the road like he'd been waiting forever. Tiana's first instinct was to drive past. She was alone, broke, and exhausted. The man looked like trouble, or at least the kind of trouble people warned you about. But something about the way he stood there stopped her. He didn't look angry or wild, just stranded. She slowed down, her tires crunching over gravel as she pulled onto the shoulder. The biker turned toward her, eyebrows raised like he couldn't believe anyone actually stopped. "You out of gas?" Tiana called out through her open window, keeping one hand on the steering wheel just in case. He gave a half smile. "Yeah. Been standing here for about an hour. Thought I could make it to the next station. Guess my luck ran out." Tiana looked at the gas can in his hand. "You need a ride to the station?" He hesitated. "You sure about that?" "I don't bite." She rolled her eyes. "You say that like it helps." He laughed, a deep, gravelly sound that didn't match the rough exterior. "Name's Ray," he said. "Ray Dalton." "Tiana," she replied. "Hop in, Ray." "But no funny stuff. I got pepper spray." "Fair enough." The smell of gasoline clung to his clothes as he climbed into her car. For a few miles, neither of them said much. The only sounds were the rumble of her old engine and the faint noise of cars passing by. "You a nurse?" Ray finally asked, nodding toward her scrubs. "Student. Trying to be. Got 1 semester left if I can keep the lights on that long." He grinned. "Hard work. My sister's a nurse. Takes guts to do what y'all do." Tiana smiled faintly. Compliments didn't pay the rent, but they helped a little. When they pulled up to the Maple Grove gas station, she parked and reached for her purse. "You got cash?" Ray patted his vest pockets, then sighed. "Cards in my saddlebag. Locked it before I walked off. I'll pay you back, promise." She stared at him for a moment. $8. That's all she had left in her wallet until her next check hit. It wasn't much, but it was supposed to cover dinner and bus fare for tomorrow. Still, something about his voice. It wasn't a lie. It was tired, like hers. Tiana stepped out, walked inside, and came back with a filled gas can. "Here," she said, handing it over. "You can get home now." Ray blinked. "You didn't have to." "I know," she interrupted, "but I wanted to." He took it slowly, like it was worth more than gas. "You sure you don't want me to send it back your way?" "Don't worry about it," she said. "Just get home safe." He looked at her for a long second, then said quietly, "You got more heart than most people I've met on 2 wheels." He gave a small nod, climbed out, and walked toward the bike. Tiana watched him pour the gas into the tank, kick the engine to life, and ride off into the fading light. For a moment, the noise of that Harley filled the air. Then it was gone. Just her, the empty highway, and a lighter wallet. She sighed, started her car, and whispered, "Guess it's noodles again tonight." But what she didn't know was that the man she helped, Ray Dalton, wasn't done with her story. Not even close. Tiana's gas tank hit empty 3 miles from her apartment. She coasted into the parking lot on a prayer and fumes. The building was old, a 3-story complex tucked behind a laundromat and a dollar store. Paint peeled from the railings. The vending machine in the lobby hadn't worked in years. She parked her car, killed the engine, and sat for a moment in silence. The day had drained everything out of her. Not just energy, but hope. Her rent was late again. Her landlord had left another note under the door, and she had 1 more shift tomorrow before she could even think about rest. As she climbed the stairs to her second-floor apartment, her neighbor, Mrs. Hernandez, called from her doorway. "You okay, mija? You look tired," Tiana forced a smile. "I'm good." "Just one of those days," Mrs. Hernandez nodded. "You're always working. You need to take care of yourself." Tiana wanted to laugh at that. Take care of herself? She was just trying to survive. Inside, her apartment was small but neat. A futon against the wall, a stack of textbooks on the coffee table, and a note taped to the fridge with "past due" written in red ink. She set her purse down and pulled out her wallet. 3 ones and a 5. $8. That was all that stood between her and zero. She sat at the table, staring at the money. It wasn't much, but it was hers. Or it had been, until an hour ago, when she gave it to that biker. Tiana let out a shaky sigh. "What was I thinking?" she muttered. $8 could have at least bought me dinner. Her phone buzzed. A text from her classmate, Jasmine. "Jasmine, you coming to clinical tomorrow? Heard the instructor's doing evaluations." Tiana, "Yeah, I'll be there." Jasmine, "You okay, girl? You sound stressed lately." Tiana, "I'm fine, just tired." She hit send and tossed the phone onto the couch. Fine, that's what she always said. But fine didn't mean fine. Fine meant barely holding on. She stood, went to the tiny kitchen, and filled a pot with water. The burner clicked 3 times before the flame caught. She tore open a packet of noodles and dropped them in. As the steam rose, she caught her reflection in the window. Weary eyes, loose curls tied up in a messy bun, scrubs still creased from work. Her thoughts drifted back to the man she helped, Ray. The way he looked at her before leaving, like he'd seen something familiar. Not pity. Respect, maybe. "Bet he forgot about me already," she whispered. But she couldn't shake the strange peace that moment brought her. It wasn't about the money. It was about seeing someone stranded and not turning away. Still, her stomach growled, reminding her that kindness didn't fill it. Dinner was quick and quiet. She ate sitting cross-legged on the couch, scrolling through her phone. Videos of people getting lucky, winning raffles, getting surprise gifts, life turning around. The kind of stories that made you smile but never seemed to happen to people like her. By the time she finished, her phone was dead. She plugged it in, crawled into bed, and stared at the ceiling. The air conditioner rattled faintly in the corner. Outside, someone's dog barked. She closed her eyes, but her mind wouldn't rest. What if she hadn't stopped? What if she'd just driven past? Would it have made a difference? Tiana sighed. Probably not. But deep down, something inside her whispered otherwise. Her eyelids grew heavy, and she finally drifted off, unaware that somewhere across town, a group of men in leather jackets were talking about her around a bonfire, their engines still cooling, their hearts unexpectedly moved. But before morning came, one of them made a promise, and that promise would soon turn her quiet life into something she'd never forget. The alarm went off at 5:15 a.m., sharp and merciless. Tiana groaned, slapping her phone off the nightstand. Her head pounded, her back ached. But there was no time to complain. The hospital didn't care how tired she was. She swung her legs off the bed and rubbed her eyes. The apartment felt colder than usual. Her power company had sent another warning yesterday. If she didn't make a payment soon, the lights could go next. In the bathroom mirror, the bags under her eyes looked darker. She tied her hair back and reached for her toothbrush, but the water pressure was barely a trickle. Another sign that the building was giving up just as much as she was. As she got dressed in her faded scrubs, she thought again about the $8. She didn't regret helping Ray, not really, but it stung. That was gas money, lunch money, survival money. She slung her backpack over her shoulder and locked the door behind her. Outside, the parking lot was half empty. A few cars idled, people heading to early shifts just like her. Everyone looked tired in their own way. When she turned the key in her Toyota, the engine coughed but didn't start. She tried again. Click, click, click. Nothing. "Please," she whispered, giving the steering wheel a tap like it might listen. Just one more day. Still nothing. She sighed and leaned back, the cold morning air seeping through the cracked window. The irony wasn't lost on her. She gave her last bit of gas money to someone else, and now she couldn't even get to work. Her phone vibrated. Jasmine again. "Jasmine, you on your way?" Tiana. "Car won't start. I might have to take the bus." Jasmine. "Girl, that's going to take forever. Just tell them you'll be late. Late. Another mark against her record. She'd already been warned once. Too many missed shifts, and she'd lose her spot in the program. She locked the car and started walking toward the bus stop a few blocks down. The morning air bit at her skin, sharp and gray. Every step felt heavier than the last. At the stop, a man in a puffy jacket was sitting on the bench, sipping coffee. He looked at her, then at her hospital badge. "Long day ahead?" he asked. She smiled faintly. "Feels like it started yesterday." He chuckled. "You in nursing?" "Trying to be." "It's a process." He nodded. "Takes heart, what you're doing." Not everyone's built for that. She didn't know why, but his words made her throat tighten. Maybe it was just the kindness. Small, unplanned, but real. The bus arrived with a hiss of brakes. She climbed aboard, found a seat near the window, and stared out as the city moved by. Pawn shops, half-closed diners, and a row of motorcycles parked outside a bar called the Iron Den. For a second, she thought she saw him, the biker from last night, but shook it off. There had to be hundreds of men like that in this city. At the hospital, the day dragged. She pushed gurneys, checked vitals, cleaned rooms, no lunch break, no time to breathe. Just patience and noise and exhaustion. Around 3 in the afternoon, she ducked into the staff lounge to grab water. Jasmine was there, scrolling on her phone. "You okay?" she asked. Tiana nodded, forcing a smile. "Yeah, just hungry." Jasmine frowned. "You gotta eat, T. You look pale." "I'll grab something later." She wouldn't. There wasn't money for it. By the time her shift ended, the sun had already dipped low again. Another 12 hours gone. She made it home, shoes in her hand, shoulders slumped. The mailbox held another bill. Overdue notice. Bright red. She dropped it on the table without opening it. Tiana sat in the dark for a while, the faint streetlight cutting through her blinds. Her stomach ached, her eyes burned, but she still managed a small smile when she thought of the biker. She'd helped someone, even when she couldn't help herself. Maybe that counted for something. But as she closed her eyes that night, she had no idea that her simple act of kindness had already reached people she'd never met, and that they were planning something that would shake her quiet world to its core. The night air was thick with smoke and the sound of engines cooling. In a gravel lot behind the Iron Den bar in Dalton, Georgia, a group of men sat around a crackling fire pit, the glow dancing off leather vests patched with skulls, flames, and words that warned people to keep their distance. Ray Hammer Dalton sat slightly apart from the rest, his weathered hands gripping a dented coffee mug. The faint hum of conversation buzzed around him, jokes, arguments, the kind of rowdy noise that usually filled their nights. But tonight, his mind was somewhere else. He couldn't stop thinking about that girl, that nursing student, with tired eyes and a quiet strength that reminded him of his daughter before she passed. He hadn't meant to get stuck on the side of that highway. A bad gauge, a missed exit, and suddenly his gas tank was bone dry. He'd been ready to walk the rest of the way, but no one stopped. Not one car. Until she did. "Yo, Hammer," one of the guys called, pulling him from his thoughts. It was Brick, a mountain of a man with tattoos climbing his neck. "You good, brother? You've been staring at that fire like it owes you money?" Ray gave a small grunt. "Just thinking." Brick smirked. "That's dangerous." "What about?" "That girl who helped me earlier gave me her last few bucks for gas." The laughter around the fire faded a little. "You serious?" another asked. "Ain't nobody do that no more." "Yeah," Ray said, leaning forward. "Didn't even know me. Just saw me on the side of the road and stopped. Said her name was Tiana Brick," scratched his beard. "Tiana, huh? What, she trying to scam you or something?" Ray shook his head. "No, man. She didn't ask for a thing, just said, 'Get home safe.' That's it." A younger biker named Lucky tossed a beer can into the fire. "Sounds like she's got more guts than sense." "Maybe," Ray said quietly. "Or maybe she's just got more heart than the rest of us." The group went silent for a moment. The only sound was the crackle of the fire and the soft whistle of the wind cutting through the trees. Ray leaned back, eyes on the stars. "You know, I've been in this club for 20 years. Seen the good, the bad, the ugly. We've done things we ain't proud of. But this girl, she didn't care about what I looked like or where I came from. She saw somebody who needed help and didn't ask why Brick shifted uncomfortably." "So what are you saying?" I'm saying maybe it's time we remember what brotherhood's supposed to mean, Ray said, his voice rough. Ain't just about the patch. It's about standing up for people who stand up for others. Lucky laughed a little. You talking about paying her back? Ray looked up at him, a glint in his eye. Not just paying her back. Showing her what it means to be seen, to be appreciated. The group murmured. A few heads nodded. What you got in mind? Brick asked. Ray leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. Tomorrow morning, we ride. All of us. To her place, Brick blinked. You serious? You want to roll up 100 deep on some poor girl's apartment? You'll scare her half to death. Ray's lips curved into a half smile. Not if we come bearing gifts. Silence hung for a beat. Then slowly, smiles spread around the circle. All right, Brick said, standing up and clapping his hands together. Let's do it then. About time we made some noise for the right reasons. Lucky grinned. Guess we're trading chaos for kindness now. Ray chuckled. Maybe both. He looked back into the fire, the orange light flickering in his eyes. For the first time in years, he felt something shift inside him. The kind of feeling he thought was long gone. Purpose. He raised his mug slightly, voice low. To Tiana Brooks, the girl who reminded an old biker what decency looks like. The others raised their drinks in unison. To Tiana, they echoed. But when the sun rose the next morning, none of them could have imagined how powerful that ride would become. Not just for her, but for every soul who witnessed it. Tiana woke to a low, steady vibration that she thought was part of a dream at first. It sounded like thunder, distant, rolling, growing louder by the second. Her eyes blinked open, confused. Sunlight crept through the blinds, casting thin stripes across her face. The rumble didn't stop. It deepened, multiplied. She sat up, groggy, and checked her phone. 8:03 a.m. She hadn't planned to sleep in, but the exhaustion had taken over after her shift. Still half asleep, she stumbled to the window, pulling the blinds apart. Her jaw went slack. The parking lot was full of motorcycles, dozens of them, lined up like a chrome army, their engines growling in sync. The sound filled the air, shaking the glass. Men in leather jackets and heavy boots stood beside their bikes, talking, laughing, their presence impossible to ignore. For a moment, Tiana thought maybe there'd been some kind of event nearby, or a club gathering. But then she saw him. The same man from the highway, Ray Dalton, standing front and center, sunglasses on, his hands resting calmly on the handlebars of his Harley. Panic hit first. Oh no, she whispered, backing away from the window. What is this? What's happening? She darted to the door and pressed her eye to the peephole. There were bikers everywhere, on the sidewalk, near the stairs, across the street. Neighbors peeked out from curtains, a few brave souls filming on their phones. A knock hit her door. Firm, steady, not threatening, but loud enough to make her heart skip. Miss Brooks? A deep voice called. It's Ray. Mind if we talk for a second? Tiana froze. Every possible thought ran through her head. Was this a setup? Did he track her down? Was he in trouble? She hesitated, hand hovering over the doorknob. How do you even know where I live? She called back. He chuckled softly. I'm a biker, ma'am. We find things out. Don't worry, not in a bad way. Through the peephole, she saw him lift his hand slightly. I promise we ain't here for trouble. Her heartbeat slowed just enough for curiosity to win over fear. She opened the door halfway, chain still on. What's all this? Ray smiled, the kind that crinkled the corners of his eyes. A thank you. Behind him, one of the bikers whistled. Another rolled forward a cart stacked high with grocery bags, canned goods, cereal boxes, even fresh produce. A few others carried what looked like furniture wrapped in blankets. I don't understand, she said. What is this? Ray took a slow breath. You helped me when you didn't have to. You gave your last $8 to a stranger wearing a patch most people run from. You didn't judge, you didn't ask, you just helped. That meant something, Tiana blinked, struggling to process. I didn't expect anything back. I just wanted to help, I know, he said gently. That's what makes it special. He turned and waved his arm. A few men came forward carrying more, boxes, folded clothes, even a small envelope. See, the fellas and I talked last night, Ray continued. Figured the world could use a few reminders that kindness ain't dead. You showed us that. So we wanted to show you something too. The rumble of engines quieted as the bikers turned them off one by one. The lot fell into a strange stillness, just the sound of boots shuffling and the rustle of plastic bags. "Ray," she said softly, "this is too much." He shook his head. "No, ma'am. It's not enough." She unlatched the chain and opened the door fully. The hallway behind her was narrow, walls chipped, carpet worn. But at that moment, it didn't matter. The sight outside felt almost surreal. 100 men who looked like outlaws standing in perfect respect for her. A woman in scrubs from next door peeked out and whispered, "Girl, what did you do?" Tiana could only laugh nervously. "I don't even know." Ray stepped forward, handing her the envelope. "From all of us." Her hands trembled as she opened it. Inside was a check. At first, her brain didn't register the number. Then her breath caught. Enough to clear her debt. Enough to breathe again. Her voice cracked. "Why? You don't even know me." He met her eyes. "Because you didn't need to know me to help." That's the kind of person this world needs more of. For a long moment, Tiana couldn't speak. Her throat burned, tears blurring her vision. Then from behind Ray, someone shouted, "Smile, Miss Tiana. You're family now." Laughter broke through the crowd. The air, once thick with engine smoke and tension, filled with something warmer. Joy, disbelief, gratitude. Ray turned to the men. "All right, boys. Let's get this woman set up right." They moved like a small army of kindness, carrying groceries up the stairs, unloading furniture, fixing a loose stair rail someone had mentioned. Neighbors stepped out, still recording, their fears shifting into applause. Tiana stood at her doorway, trying to hold it together as tears slid down her cheeks. "Ray," she said softly, "I don't know how to thank you." He smiled. "You already did, sweetheart. Yesterday when you stopped, but what happened that morning wouldn't just stay on her street. By nightfall, that moment would travel farther than any of them could have dreamed. By noon, the whole neighborhood had gathered. Kids ran around pointing at the bikes. Older folks leaned on railings, shaking their heads in disbelief. What started as confusion had turned into a kind of celebration, loud, smoky, and full of heart. Tiana's apartment, once quiet and bare, now looked alive. Bikers carried in bags of food, a used but perfect sofa, a small dining table, even a microwave. Someone brought a framed picture of an angel with the words, "Good hearts find their way." They hung it above her kitchen counter like it belonged there all along. The hallway smelled of leather, gasoline, and barbecue. One of the women from the biker group, Roxy, had fired up a small grill near the parking lot and was passing out sandwiches to anyone who wanted one. Tiana stood in the middle of her living room, overwhelmed. "This is crazy," she whispered, shaking her head. Ray, standing nearby with his arms crossed, smiled. "Crazy ain't always bad." She laughed through tears. "You have no idea how much this means to me." He nodded. "Actually, I think I do." There was a brief silence, just the sound of people talking and the clatter of furniture being set down. Then Ray said softly, "My daughter was your age when she passed." Tiana looked up. "I'm sorry. I didn't know." "You couldn't have," he said. "She was studying to be a nurse too. Car accident. 3 years ago. Haven't talked about her much since." He paused, voice rougher now. "When you stopped to help me yesterday, you looked just like her. Same tired eyes, same kind of smile. I don't know, maybe it was just the timing. But for a minute, it felt like I got to see a bit of her again." Tiana's throat tightened. She didn't know what to say. Ray looked down, then back up at her. "I went home that night and told the guys what you did. We've all seen rough days, worse than rough. But no one ever stops for us, not once. You didn't just give me gas, Tiana. You gave me back some faith." Tiana's hand went to her mouth as tears spilled freely now. From the doorway, Brick called out, "Hey, Hammer, you gonna tell her about the other thing or what?" Ray turned, glaring at him. "I was getting there, big man." Brick grinned and stepped aside as two bikers rolled in a covered object on a dolly. They parked it near the wall, the sound of metal against tile echoing faintly. "What's that?" Tiana asked, wiping her eyes. Ray motioned toward it. "Something we put together last night." He nodded, and one of the men pulled the tarp away. Underneath sat a used Toyota Corolla, small, silver, clean, with a big red bow on top. Tiana gasped. No, no, you can't. Ray raised a hand. We can. And we did. Took up a collection this morning. Some of the guys work in body shops, others at garages. We fixed it up. Runs smooth. It's yours. Her knees went weak. She pressed her palms to her face, her voice trembling. I don't even have words. Ray chuckled. You don't need 'em? Just drive it when your old one quits on you. The crowd outside cheered, a chorus of laughter and applause echoing through the lot. Roxy yelled, Girl, you better come see this engine before I start bragging about it myself. Tiana stepped outside, covering her mouth as she saw the car gleaming in the sunlight. Every biker stood nearby, smiling, proud. She turned to Ray, her eyes wet but shining. Why me? Out of everyone you could have helped. He shrugged. Because you helped without asking. Because you gave when you didn't have much to give. And because sometimes the smallest kindness deserves the loudest thank you. She didn't care who was watching. She stepped forward and hugged him, tight. The leather of his vest was cold against her cheek, but his arms were steady. Thank you, she whispered. He cleared his throat, patting her shoulder. You're gonna make me soft in front of my boys, girl. The laughter returned, easy and genuine. Even the neighbors joined in. Someone turned on music, old rock, loud and unapologetic. And for a while, the parking lot became a block party. Phones came out, cameras flashed, people shouted questions. Who is she? What happened? What's the story? By evening, a clip of the moment hit social media. The headline read, Biker gang surprises nursing student after she spends her last $8 helping one of them. Within hours, it spread. Thousands of comments poured in. Some crying, some inspired, all amazed. Tiana's phone buzzed nonstop. People offered donations, job referrals, even scholarships. The hospital where she trained called her in the next day. They'd seen the video, and one of the senior doctors offered to cover her tuition balance personally. Everything changed in less than 24 hours. That night, as the last bikes rolled away and the sound faded into the distance, Tiana stood in her doorway, watching them disappear into the setting sun. The air smelled faintly of gas and barbecue. She touched the envelope in her pocket and smiled. Thank you, she whispered, though they were already gone. Inside, her apartment looked different now, brighter, fuller, alive. She walked to the window and saw the reflection of the angel picture above the counter. Good hearts find their way. She let out a shaky laugh. Guess they really do. But deep inside, Tiana knew this wasn't just about money or gifts. It was about what her kindness sparked in people who weren't used to giving second chances. It had been a week since that morning. The morning when thunder rolled through her parking lot and strangers became family. The video had gone viral everywhere. Tiana couldn't go online without seeing her own tear-streaked face paired with headlines like The $8 Miracle or The Nurse Who Helped a Biker and Changed 100 Lives. At first, the attention felt overwhelming. Reporters called, classmates messaged her out of nowhere. Even the hospital staff treated her differently, like she'd done something extraordinary. But to Tiana, it still didn't feel like a big act. It had just been the right thing to do. On a quiet Sunday afternoon, she sat on the new sofa the bikers had brought her, a soft breeze drifting in through the window. Her textbooks were open, highlighter marks everywhere. For once, the stress in her chest was gone. The Corolla keys sat on the coffee table beside her. Every time she looked at them, she smiled. It wasn't about the car, it was about what it represented, a chain reaction of goodness that started with one small choice. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Ray, just checking in, kiddo. How's the car running? Tiana laughed softly as she typed back. Tiana, runs better than my old one ever did. You guys really didn't have to do all that. Ray, we did. You reminded a bunch of old bikers what grace looks like. Don't lose that heart of yours. Tiana, I won't. Thank you again for everything. Ray, no, thank you. Keep paying it forward. That's how this keeps going. She read that last message twice, then 3 times. Keep paying it forward. Tiana set her phone down, eyes drifting toward the window. Across the street, she saw a man pushing a grocery cart with a flat tire, struggling to keep it balanced. Without thinking, she grabbed her sandals and went outside to help. Later that night, she sat back down on the couch and whispered to herself, one act, just one act, can change everything. Her voice was soft, but steady, Sometimes, kindness doesn't come from people with plenty to spare. It comes from those who give, even when they're running on empty. That's what makes it powerful. That's what makes it real. In the quiet, she looked once more at the picture hanging over her counter. Good hearts find their way. And in that moment, she believed it, completely. Because in a world where everyone's rushing past each other, a little kindness can still stop everything, even for just a second, and remind us all of what we're capable of. If this story touched you, don't let it end here. Be someone's Tiana. Stop for that stranger. Offer what you can, even if it's small. You never know. That simple moment might be the spark that lights up someone else's life.